T minus 7 days until we find out whether Mitch McConnell's alive, as we were just saying.
The
Anyway, welcome back.
Schrodinger's senator. Um, yes, this is Dream Idiots. My name is Morris.
I'm
The other
Bryan.
guy, the other guy there, Bryan, is counting down the days till we learn the fate of one of the worst human beings in the history of this country, Mitch McConnell.
No, we've learned the
Um,
fate. He died 42 days ago, but
you think he did? You think he
yeah,
is? You
I
think
think
he's
he's
okay?
long dead. He's pushing
Yeah,
up his body went where his brain went 20 years ago. So yeah, scumbag. But
yeah. Well, they're dropping like flies,
yay.
or ladybugs in Lindsey Graham's case. Uh, each week on Dream Idiots, Bryan and I, two white guys in their mid 50s who are no longer liberal but more leftist, I think, in the way we look at the world. We tell each other stories. It's Bryan's turn this week, and we'll get to his story in a moment. But folks can find us at all kinds of places, can't they, Bryan?
Yes, principally you can go to dreamidiots.com. New episodes each week get posted there. We are continuing. We still see this nice little bump in traffic, mostly on YouTube. So last couple episodes, two or three of them have had several thousand downloads. And on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, we're kind of averaging between 1,800 and 2,000 downloads a month,
Oh well.
which is great. So we appreciate that. If you can, so check out Dream Idiots. Please like, share, and subscribe. If you enjoy looking at two middle-aged men talking, you can watch us on YouTube. It's riveting stuff. I have to tell you, and that's where our biggest audience is. But on the website, you can drop us a line as well. If you've got a story idea or a curse word of the week idea, or just want to say hey, you can reach out that way. And we appreciate you hanging in there with us for now, going on what it's a 4.5 years, 4.5 years
I have
of
no
doing
idea,
this.
dude. I've time is
Right.
and a little behind the scenes. We do have a production company called Rough Tiger, and that is the umbrella housing for Dream Idiots and Crime Idiots as well. And we almost called ourselves Glasses and Foreheads, but we figured Rough Tiger was a lot better. Just looking at ourselves here on YouTube. Um, Bryan, it is you're going to go again because I was out of the country. So you've got a story for this or this week, correct?
I do. So up in your neck of the woods, up in the Rocky Mountains,
Yes.
out there in the mountains, the silence out there can feel absolute. I'm sure you've gone out to Garden of the Gods or Maroon Bells, and when the wind settles down, it is just eerily quiet sometimes
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
out in the mountains. For 10 years, between 2010 and 2020, those mountains were also filled with the whispers of thousands of people who were not looking at the peaks or the sunsets. They were looking at dirt and under logs and behind waterfalls and beneath rotten trees. They were looking for a little bronze.
I know where you're going. This is a great story. I don't know much about it, but I know the
Okay,
story.
okay.
Yeah, yeah. This is great. Yeah.
They're looking for a little bronze chest, 10
Mm-hmm.
inches by 10 inches by 5 inches, weighing 22 pounds. Inside that chest was a king's ransom of gold nuggets, rare coins, ancient jewelry, and gemstones, fortune worth between $1 and $2 million. This is the story of Forrest Fenn, his infamous treasure, and the thrill of the chase. So obviously, based on your dancing there, which you can only enjoy if you're watching this on YouTube, you know a little bit about this story, I guess.
A little bit. Yeah. Not a lot.
So I didn't know anything about it until probably 10 years ago when I was at a party and was yakking with this guy, and he had just come back from doing some hiking and poking around either the Santa Fe or Albuquerque area. It must have been the Albuquerque area, I guess. And he was hiking, and he said he and his friend were looking for treasure, which then prompted the obvious question in me, what treasure? And then he told me about Forrest Fenn and that his friend was into this story. So they had done some poking around, doing some treasure hunting. So before we get to the man behind the myth, we're going to talk a little bit about how this fever dream started. In 2010, Forrest Fenn self-published a memoir titled "The Thrill of the Chase." It wasn't a bestseller in mainstream bookstores. In fact, he distributed it and published it himself out of a local bookstore in New Mexico, claiming he didn't want to make a single dime off the profits of the sale of the book. Tucked inside the book was a 24-line poem containing 9 clues. If you solved them in order, they would lead you directly to the spot where Forrest had hand delivered his treasure. I'm not going to read the whole poem, but there are 4 lines that, in particular, just drove people absolutely mad.
There
You
once
know,
was a man from Albuquerque who liked to make armadillo jerky. He, no, I don't know.
yeah,
Go
go
ahead.
on.
Sorry. No, 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 no.
Uh, they read, begin it where warm waters halt, and take it in the canyon down, not far, but too far to walk. Put it in below the home of Brown, and Brown is capitalized.
Okay.
So where warm waters halt. So those 4 simple words generated endless Google searches
Hmm.
on internet forums. So warm water. So is that a thermal spring? Is that a dam? Is that where two rivers or creeks or something come together? Who or what the heck is Brown? Is that a person? Is that referring to an animal? Is that a bear? There's a place near the place in northern Mexico where I like to go near Ghost Ranch. There's a cabin that was a homesteader's cabin called Blackie's Cabin or Blackie's Barn, way out in the middle of nowhere, just on the top
Hmm.
of the top. So like, who is this? Who is this named for? So we don't really know who Brown is. So people spent years of their lives and sometimes their entire life savings trying to decode these exact lines. But to understand the puzzle, you kind of have to understand the puzzle maker. So we're going to talk a little bit about Forrest Fenn himself. Forrest Burke Fenn was born in Temple, Texas in 1930. He was,
Ooh, that's a rough start.
yeah, Temple, Texas, not really a hot spot. It's worth blowing through that town even today. He preferred being outside. He was not an academic. He liked wandering around and collecting things. His life took a massive structured turn because he joined the U.S. Air Force in 1950. Fenn wasn't
Mm.
wasn't just any pilot. He was a highly decorated combat flyer. At one point, he actually recorded 328 combat missions in a single year. That's going out every single day. He was shot down twice, survived, and was awarded eventually the Silver Star. So this guy has ice in his veins, but strong connection to the wilderness and very, very strong sort of survivalist tendencies.
Hmm.
Right.
He probably served in Korea or Vietnam, I'm guessing.
The notes actually, I would
Yeah,
assume Korea.
he would have been in his 20s, early 20s,
In
right?
one of the
So, yeah,
in one of the notes it says Vietnam. I guess it could have been Vietnam because I
he would
guess
have been 40. Yeah.
yeah, the late 30s, if he'd gone early. So he retires from the military, and he and his wife Peggy moved to Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Hmm.
He didn't have a background in art history at all, but he possessed a really good eye, a silver tongue, and just a relentless drive. He opened the Fenn Galleries, which became a huge success, grossing $6 million a year in revenue. He sold Native American artifacts, fine art, and bronze sculptures. He rubbed elbows with a lot of elite clientele, celebrities, politicians, the ultra wealthy. But Forrest was always a bit of a rogue. In 2009, his home was raided by the FBI as part of a massive federal antiquities looting probe
Oh my
called,
God.
called Operation Cerberus Action. Authorities seized
Jesus Christ.
Authorities seized leather talismans, chainmail, even a bison skull. Fenn is never charged, but the incident highlighted his comfort with operating in the legal gray areas of history and ownership and, providence.
Hmm.
So, in a different period of time, it's like, okay, where'd you get this? Obviously, formerly Jewish artwork from? Maybe, he would have turned his eye, I think, sometimes if there was a buck to be made. The true turning point in his life came quite a bit earlier, though. In 1988, Forrest was diagnosed with kidney cancer and given a terminal
Ooh.
prognosis. I'm not sure what the treatment for cancer of the kidney would have been in the late 80s, but it could not have been good. Faced with his own mortality, Forrest's mind didn't go to notions of retirement. It went straight to legacy. He bought an antique 12th century French bronze box and started filling it with gold coins, heavy nuggets, pre-Columbian gold figures, rubies, and diamonds. His original plan was to walk out into the mountains with the chest, swallow a handful of pills, and let his bones rest right next to the gold. So he basically wanted he wanted people to force people to have to deal with his body in order to get the treasure. That was the original goal. But then the crazy unexpected happens. Remission. The cancer goes away. So
That's good. Yeah.
it's not it's not a death sentence. Forrest held on to the treasure chest for 20 years. Finally, in 2010, at the age of 80, he decided he was going to carry out this plan anyway, minus the suicide. He drove out into the Rocky Mountains, hid the chest, and then unleashed a modern legend. Fenn envisioned his hunt as a way to get families off their couches, away from their screens, and out into the majesty of nature. He told searchers repeatedly, "Do not look anywhere." An 80-year-old man couldn't carry a 22-pound box. So he insisted no climbing, no dangerous rappelling. It's not in an underwater cave. This isn't Indiana. This isn't Indiana Jones. Don't take any risk. There's no boulder that's going to fall down on top of you. So don't risk your life. But people become obsessed, as you might expect. And when you feel like you're just one step away from $1 million, every cliff looks like a shortcut,
Hmm.
and people start leaving the trail. And over these 10 years, 11 years, a lot of people went looking over many, many states.
Hmm.
Randy Bilyeu was 54 years old, a retired grandfather from Florida, and he had moved to Colorado solely to go hunting for the treasure. In January 2016, Randy bought a raft, packed his GPS, a metal detector, and grabbed his dog Leo and set out onto the frozen Rio Grande. January on the Rio Grande is brutal.
Hmm.
Temperatures are freezing and the water is unforgiving. Randy did not return. And when that happened, a massive search was launched. 2 weeks later, rescuers found his raft. The dog was inside the boat, alive, but shivering.
Hey, good.
Leo was fine. No sign of Randy. It wasn't until July, 6 months later, that his remains were found downstream. His ex-wife later declared her belief that the treasure was a hoax, and she really actively blamed Fenn for drawing people out to their deaths, basically.
First suspect should have been the dog.
Then came Jeff Murphy in June of 2017, also in his early 50s, 53, father of two from Illinois. He went hiking in Yellowstone National Park. He told his wife he was going for a hike, but she knew what he was up to. He
Hmm.
was searching for the Fenn treasure. He was hiking near Turkey Bend Peak. Terrain here is steep and risky, unstable. Lost his footing and he fell 500 feet down a sheer slope. It took a Freedom of Information Act request from a local TV station to finally get park officials to admit that Jeff's death was directly tied to the Forrest Fenn hunt. Just days after Murphy's body was found, a pastor from Colorado named Paris Wallace went missing. Paris was a man of faith, but he had become just completely consumed by this treasure hunt and this story, and he was convinced he was close. He drove to New Mexico near the Taos Junction Bridge. And when he didn't show up for a family meeting, they found his car parked near the river. His body was recovered several miles downstream along the Rio Grande. The consecutive deaths of Murphy and Wallace within the same month prompted the chief of the New Mexico State Police to make a public plea. He went on TV and begged Forrest Fenn to call off the hunt, saying, quote, "He's putting lives at risk." But Fenn refused, arguing that accidents happen to hikers all the time, which they do, like crazy.
Hmm.
And in Fenn's mind, the hunt does more good than harm. In July of 2017, 31-year-old Eric Ashby's raft overturned on a very treacherous and fast-moving section of the Arkansas River in Colorado. He had just moved to the state to hunt for the treasure. It flips over and he drowns. Finally, March 2020, Michael Wayne Sexton, 53 years old again. He's from Colorado. He and a companion went out on snowmobiles. Why are you hunting in the fucking winter? Got trapped in the snow near Dinosaur National Monument.
Hmm.
They were rescued. They got pulled out, but in an unbelievable twist of obsession and stupidity, they went right back to the same spot a month later and froze to death.
Uh-huh.
Right. Finally, June 6th, 2020. The searcher community was rocked because Forrest Fenn posted on a blog, quote, "It was under a canopy of stars in the lush forested vegetation of the Rocky Mountains and had not moved from the spot where I hit it more than 10 years ago. The search is over," unquote. At first, people didn't really believe it. They thought it was a hoax. They thought he was caving to pressure for calling off the search. But then finally, Forrest released photos of himself looking through the mud-caked, weathered chest and showing the treasure inside. The finder wanted to remain anonymous, fearing for his safety, and rightfully so. People over the 10 years had sued Fenn. They'd broken into his house even
Jesus Christ.
and threatened him repeatedly. But a lawsuit eventually forced the finder's hand. In December 2020, a 32-year-old medical student and former journalist named Jack Stoof came forward. He had spent 2 years obsessively analyzing Fenn's writing and realized that the clues weren't about Google Maps or hunting on satellite imagery. They were about understanding who Forrest was and the type of man he was. He figured out the location. 9 Mile Hole is a famous fishing spot along the Madison River in Yellowstone National Park.
Hmm.
And that's where, look at what the poem says. Warm waters halt. There's a thermal runoff of the Firehole River right there in this section of Yellowstone. The home of Brown refers to a legendary brown trout that lived in 9 Mile Hole, and Forrest's family jokingly referred to this fish as Mr. Brown. And the poem also references a blaze. There's a mark Fenn paints on a tree, a section, a
Hmm.
white stripe of paint on this tree. And Stu figured it out. The tree had actually fallen down by the time Stu actually
Mm.
found the treasure, but it was right there. Fenn passed away in September 2020 at the age of 90, just a few months after the treasure was retrieved. He got to see his little game completed. In December 2022, the items from the chest were auctioned off, pulling in $1.3 million. And Stu paid off all of his medical school debts and went back to a quiet life, refusing to ever pinpoint the exact tree or location because
Huh.
he didn't want it to become, a weird little
Yeah.
tour. I mean, people could die hunting just for that place,
Hmm.
even if there is no prize left. So, and that is the story of Forrest Fenn and the thrill of the chase.
That's just I mean, the deaths are entirely, regrettable, although it sounds to me like a couple people made some really bad decisions. But this smacks of, great, it's a mad, 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 mad world, right? I mean, just
Right,
all
right.
these people going out it, and he strikes me as someone who would have hung out with Edward Abbey, the great environmentalist.
Huh?
It's just a really interesting American story, and I don't think I heard about it until after it was over, actually, or maybe right before it was discovered. But I didn't know that about the parts of it being related to him, like the brown trout and so forth. I didn't know any of that stuff, and I
Right.
didn't I didn't recall it. I didn't recall all those deaths. I knew that one or two people had died, but not what, four.
At least,
Um,
well, at least five that we know of. Right.
oh, that we know of, yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, cool story.
Yeah.
Uh, just one of those American legends that just doesn't quite have a home anywhere else, I think, in the world. That's just fantastic
Yeah.
in many ways.
The only other story, and I may tell it down the road, but you may recall in the 70s or early 80s, there was a book called Masquerade. It was like a
Yes.
children's book that
Yes.
had a treasure as
Yes.
well. That is a story. I've forgotten the story, but it's a similar treasure hunt.
Hmm.
And this child in this children's book had gave clues to the location of this treasure. Not sure why my camera is screwing up in I'm not going to heaven, like with a weird white background. Um, and
You are definitely not going to heaven, my
no,
friend.
that's for certain. And so it's sort of that's the only other story of that I can think of from the last 100 years, kind of has a similar vein, where I know there was a treasure hunt and people behaved badly. I think
Yeah, 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 yeah. And
in the
I
pursuit of
remember
it.
that. Yeah, I remember that story vaguely as well. Was it an English book? Was it
Yes,
from Great Britain?
yeah, from the
Okay.
UK, and then but I haven't dug enough into that story to recall the details, but sort of in this in the same vein, but yeah, kind of a cool story. If you're going hiking, folks, lots of folks go hiking by themselves. If you do that, take a GPS, take a flip phone that and try to stay in an area where you have coverage. I mean, if you fall off a 500-foot fall, a cell phone's not going to help you, and a second person's not going to help you. But don't hike by yourself.
And let people know where you're going. Let people know.
Leave a
Just a
note.
simple leave a note.
Right, right, right. By the way, I went to this trailhead at this time. If I'm not back by this time,
Mhm.
yeah, take some precautions.
Send somebody. It is one of those great coincidences because I've got a travel related curse word of the week, Brian.
Excellent.
Are you ready?
Alrighty.
The curse word of the week is crop dusting. Now, this is a wonderful phrase. I've used it
Uh-huh.
myself, sometimes in relation to actual crop dusting, but most of the time I use this when I'm out somewhere and I see something out of place. I'll look out from the car window and say, "That's odd. That plane's dusting crops where there ain't no crops." Now, I stole this from one of my favorite films, Alfred Hitchcock's
Oh,
1959 North by
North by
Northwest,
Northwest.
starring Cary Grant, Eva Marie Saint, and of course, James Mason. Cary Grant is lured to a remote, spoilers for a 41, 67-year-old movie. Cary Grant is lured to a remote bus stop in a rural area near some cornfields where a local character notes that the crop dusting plane is on its rounds over a barren field. No more spoilers after that. And he says to Cary Grant, "That's odd that planes dusting crops, there ain't no crops." But the real reason I want to use crop dusting owes to my recent plane travel. I just got back from
Hmm.
an 8-day vacation. I first learned of this word, a code word, from a book called Around the World in a Bad Mood, Confessions of a Flight Attendant by Renee Foss from 2002. It refers to the necessary action of expressing flatulence while on a plane, that is, ripping farts at altitude. Even flight attendants do this, and they might punish a particularly uncivilized group of passengers by releasing said farts as they go about their business of, say, collecting drink glasses up and down the aisle, effectively crop dusting
Hmm.
the entire area with their emanations. David Sedaris makes reference to it in one of his
Right,
books as well.
right.
Um, and I do use this version of crop dusting as well when I'm, say, out with my kids at the grocery store. "Don't go down the frozen dinner aisle." One of us will call out, "It's been crop dusted." I'm a good dad, Brian.
Clearly.
So, in celebration of my recent travel and return to the States, something I may or may not have done on the plane myself, crop dusting
Hmm.
is the curse word of the week.
Yes, very, very, extremely funny. I um, I first heard crop dusting in a lot of David Sedaris' content. I wind up listening to an audiobook because
Mhm.
he almost I think he reads all of his books pretty much exclusively. I don't know there's ever been another voice doing his books, but his books just sound better in his voice. And so
Oh, yeah.
him telling the story about the flight attendant walking up to him and it's part of some sort of fan interaction before or after
Right.
an event where this flight attendant comes up and says, "Well, when we have gas on a flight, we call that drop testing." And him, I'm sure, just losing his mind laughing. Yeah, it's funny
Oh,
stuff.
he always has some fecal related story in his presentations. And folks, if you ever have a chance to see David Sedaris live, I mean, two of the great performances I've seen in my life were by David Sedaris, and I've seen him several times live now, and the late great Spalding Gray, who
Mm.
knew how to tell a story. See David Sedaris. He is funny as shit. I mean, it's good stuff.
Yeah, he's
Um,
actually appearing. I'm gonna hopefully go see him. So I've been I've read everything he's ever written. I've never seen him live, but he is going to be at the there's some small theater, I can't even picture it, in Marfa, Texas, toward the end of the
Oh,
year.
that'd be
Like,
awesome.
that'd be worth
Yeah.
a drive. So I might try to do that.
Yeah, and returning back to crop dusting, it is something that I do like in a record store when it's completely empty,
Hmm.
but there's one other person in the store and they decide that they have to search the section you're in, and I mean stand right next to you. It's just like, dude, there's rows and rows of records. Why are you standing right next to me? Anyway,
Cool.
and there we go. Once again, from the sublime aspects of nature and the natural world to bodily functions. That's
Hmm.
kind of what we do here on
Yeah,
Dream
that's
Idiots.
our that's right in our wheelhouse. Yep. All right. Well, thanks for listening, folks. We appreciate it. Again, check out dreamidiots.com. Like, share, and subscribe, especially on YouTube. That's where we're seeing most of our views, listens these days. We appreciate it. And drop us a line if you want. Dreamidiotspodcast at Gmail. And we'll be back. Hopefully, the goal is to do new
Push
episodes
through. Yeah.
nonstop through the end of the year. So that's the goal. But
Yep.
we'll see.
Yes. And I am working on a new Christmas story. So
Sweet.
we might have a new Christmas story coming around in around Christmas time. So, folks, thanks for listening. Thanks for putting up with us. And as always, be good to each other.